Hey everybody, thanks for watching the first episode of a unnamed podcast. So comment down below, give us some ideas for what you think we should name this. But myself and then another local archer to Texas, but a friend of mine, close friend of mine, Jeremy Balderrama, we're going to be doing these together. It works really well. He definitely can talk better than I can. He has a lot more cooler stories. So he'll be fun to have on here and give a little bit different perspective on a lot of different topics, and then we'll try to mix in with bringing some different people on and kind of rolling through that too. But everybody knows me and my background decently well if you're watching my channel. So Jeremy, super quick, archer, you have been for a long time. Did a little bit with the pro scene and traveling around, meeting a lot of cool people. Just give us kind of your background. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, man. So I've been shooting for about 5 years now, going on, I think, my sixth year. And I shot in the pro class for a little bit, but we're having a little baby girl here pretty soon. So it's going to cut a lot of that travel down that I was doing. So super excited
Women are always getting
the
in the
kid.
way.
But yeah, so I love shooting field. Field's kind of my favorite sport or favorite type of archery, I guess you would say. And then shoot indoor 3D. Kind of cut my teeth on 3D whenever I first started. That was kind of my thing, was shooting some of the ASA stuff. But I'm like full fledged in the field. I've been to Reading a couple times, been to Field Nationals a couple times, was sitting in second place whenever I had a little mental mishap on setting a sight, and dropped down to seventh to finish up. So I finished in the top 10 in some of the national shoots, and just love shooting a bow and love talking archery.
Yeah, man. And you've got basically the option to have a full field course if you run it twice, right? You have a half course at your house.
Yeah, so I have a 14 target field course at my house that I have every shot that a field course runs. I have it all here. So yeah, if I roll it twice, then that's a full round.
You're gonna have to give me the photo, but I remember you sending me a photo of you standing on top of a bucket on it with the tractor with your dad hoisting you up so you could get some bunny shots in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was trying
Oh,
to work on my third axis and stuff.
yeah. What better way? I mean, you can climb on a roof, but the tractor part that looked like a lot more fun.
Yeah, it was quite a bit easier than getting up on the roof and shooting off of that and then having to get back down. It was just like I stood on a pallet and my dad just lifted me up with the forks.
Yeah, it's elevator service. That's that pro life.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, we've got some user topics that have been sent in to us, and we're going to pick a few. So, have no idea what this length of this is going to look like as we do these, but we've got three of them picked out today. I'm sure we'll get down some rabbit holes, but we wanted to go over some field archery with a viewer question, drop away versus blade rest, and then talk about some mental training, mental side of things. So, definitely get a better perspective on the field side. Jeremy's much more of an expert on that than I am. So, question that we had came in, it was basic field setups for beginners and why is field archery beneficial? So, I know that listening to you talk, that there's some really cool stuff with field that a lot of people don't think about, with side hills or aiming up or down hills and things that you would potentially even get into with a hunting situation, depending on where you're at in the world. But kind of give me your thoughts. If you were just getting into the sport, what would you do for a beginner field setup? What do you think is most important just to kind of get out there and experience it?
So man, to be honest, like the main thing that you would need, I say need, the one thing that you would want to use would be some smaller arrows. Like say you could shoot in like a 3D bow at ASA, or at like that you would shoot at like an ASA or state ASA or anything. Um, you can shoot one of those at a field event. I mean, you just have to get your longer marks and stuff. So the difference really between a field course and a 3D course, other than one being a paper target and one being like a three-dimensional foam target, is that with 3D, your max yardage, especially now since they changed the rules, but is 50 yards. But with field, the max distance is 80 yards. So you shoot from 20 feet, which is basically like 6.6 or 6.2 yards to 80 yards on a field course. If you shoot a full field round, you'll shoot them all twice. So, field round is 28 targets, a half field round is 14 targets. Um, but to have a setup for that, most people are shooting 23s or 27s or whatever at like a 3D shoot. You generally want to shoot a smaller arrow at field because you're generally shooting all into the same target, and there's 4 arrows that you have to shoot. So if you're shooting a large arrow, there's going to be a lot of carnage down there. So what most people shoot, like what a lot of the pros and all that kind of stuff shoot, is like a 166 or like a micro diameter shaft, 4 millimeter, whatever you want to call it. Um, Most people shoot those. There are some people that shoot like a 204 or like a 246, something along those lines, which is more like like the regular hunting arrows. So if you have some regular hunting arrows, like some gold tip hunters or some ultra 246s or something like that, you can use those arrows at a field shoot because it's a little less likely that you'll blow up your arrows or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you're shooting 112 arrows. It takes a lot, but you just want to make sure that your marks are good. You want a decent size or smaller arrow, and make sure that your marks are good all the way out to 80 yards and all the way into 6 yards.
Do you think so? I mean, realistically, you could use just your hunting bow for most people and get into it and roll through it, but you would probably want to do probably I mean, I guess you could get away with a multi-pin as long as it was a slider, but a single pin slider might be a little bit easier to look through for aiming.
Well, they have a bow hunter class, and they actually just came out with a modern bow hunter class.
Hmm.
So how the ASA just kind of added to the bow hunter class where they can have a slider and all that kind of stuff. Um, the NFAA started up a modern bow hunter class where you can have a slider, you can have an 18-inch stabilizer, and no lens, and you can go out there and do that. If you're gonna like, they have a regular bow hunter class where you can have up to, I think it's 7. I want to say it's I think it's 5 or 7 pins, and you can shoot just straight pins for a field round. But if you have like a regular setup for like known 40 or known 45 or known 50, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So you have like an open style setup. You can shoot freestyle, men's freestyle, and that's basically like unlimited, like open. It's
Right.
18 years old to 49 years old is the men's freestyle. So
Cool.
anybody can come join that.
Do you do you know off the top of your head, so like when you do the really close targets, like that 10 yard or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, I guess even closer than 10 yards.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, 6. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what your sight distance wise is set on for that? Because I know it's inverted. It's different than what most people would think about.
Yeah. So man, like you just said, it kind of inverts and everything, but it's basically like, I think it's like 40 yards, 45
Yeah, like
yards,
40.
something like that is about where mine's sitting at. I mean, I can look it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have the sight marks or whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's probably about 40, like you set your sight to about 45, 40 yards, somewhere around there. And it's it's called a bunny target is what they refer to it. And you have 4 targets that are lined up, vertically. And you start either at the top or at the bottom, and you have to shoot it in a straight line. And so you start it's a walk up target. So there's some walk up targets in field where you start at a further yardage, and then you shoot one arrow, walk up to the next yardage, shoot an arrow, walk up to the next yardage, so on. So so it's like, you shoot it at, so they have it marked in feet. So it's 35 feet, 30 feet, 25 feet, 20 feet, which basically comes out to like 11.6 yards, 10 yards, 8.2 yards, and then like 6.6 yards or something like
Okay.
that.
Kind of how it
It's fun,
equates
man.
out. So let me ask you this. I've heard people talk about it. I've never had a ton of experience with this. I've only ever shot a field course once or twice. When you are shooting these and you walk up to the stake and you're about to shoot that target and say you're not, I mean, maybe I guess even if you are leading off, but if you're not the very first person to shoot that target that day, do you ever glass it and look at like holes in the target and see if it's like a downhill target, you see a lot of people missing left or right, or if it's in a canyon target like at Reading, when you're shooting across some open areas, do you ever look at that and try to see like maybe here's what the wind's doing or here's what people are missing?
Yeah, man. Whenever I was shooting in the pro class a couple of years ago, I was shooting with Bodie Turner, and the wind was. We were up in Yankton, South Dakota for field nationals, and the wind was whipping. I mean, it was brutal. Like it was like 30 something mile an hour winds, and you how Yankton's set up. If you haven't been, it's like there's some targets that are up in like a set of trees. They have like three different courses. There's some targets that are kind of like up in a set of trees. Then there's some that are like partially in trees, and then like the rest are in like this drainage, like it was an overflow basically for the river that's right there. And then same for the next target set down. You're like kind of you're not really up in trees. It's like a few trees here and there, but it's kind of open. And then you have that you know basically like a retention area, like a retention area for any kind of overflow on water. And so the way the wind was blowing was just going straight down that path. Well, you would have one target that you'd be shooting from the right side over to the left side, and then you would walk to the next target and you shoot from the left side to the right side. So your arrow is literally blowing like 3 foot one way and then 3 foot back the other way. I mean, it was crazy.
That's
But
extreme.
so he would sit there and he would look at like the wind, like because it was like kind of swirling in some spots. So like it would blow left whenever you were up on top of this deal, but then down on the ground where the target was, it would be blowing right. And so he was looking at the grass and stuff on that, and then looking at the target on where a lot of the impacts were. And of course, whenever the wind's blowing from the left, a lot of the impacts were over to the right of the dot. So he was just kind of holding off from there and everything, and was kind of showing me the ropes on that side, which was pretty cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely look at the target and kind of see where people are hitting on that side. Because, so I mean, one of the parts of that question, was what makes or what's beneficial about field is that field makes you a all around better archer. Which, if anybody's into archery, I mean that's what you're trying to do. Like
Yeah.
3D, yeah, it's great. Everybody has fun at 3D. You can win a few extra bucks or whatever, but you're only shooting like one arrow. You step up, you shoot one arrow. At field, it's like, I mean, if the lane's wide enough, you can shoot 4 people if you wanted. Like you don't have to shoot individually. Like you can shoot 2 people here and then 2 people there or whatever. Um, so it makes you an all around better archer because you are shooting more arrows. It makes you a stronger archer because you are shooting more arrows. But
Yeah.
then, like you said, like with the wind, downhill, you got to know your cut. Uphill, you got to know your cut. Side hills, you got to know how to lean into it, or or you're going to shoot outright or whatever. I mean, it just makes you an all around better archer, and I've definitely noticed that from the few years of shooting field that I've gotten. Like people are like, "Oh man, you just shoot all the time. You're just naturally talented or something." Something along those lines. I'm like, no, I shoot a lot of field, so it just has made me better shooting all that. Shooting all those arrows and learning those. What I'm doing and how to make up for things.
Yeah.
Field for some people, dude, is a lot of it. Like they're scared. I don't say they're scared. I'm sorry. That's not the best way to put it. They're nervous about the amount of arrows. They're like, oh, that's 112 arrows. I don't think I can shoot that. Well, whenever you're not shooting all 112 standing in one spot, 20 yards and walking just back and forth and only having like 10 minutes or 5 minutes
Right.
of kind of downtime. You know, it's more of like hiking plus archery because
Yeah.
most of the places that you're shooting, like you've been to IBA, most of the places that you're shooting, it's all, there's some pretty good walks and hills and hikes
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff that you're walking through and you get to really see like nature and stuff. And
Right.
it's by far my favorite.
No, I
Like
think that's
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool too because like one of the things you mentioned on it is combining like that hiking setup with it. So like if you're converting that into hunting, one, like if you're a Western area hunter, you're gonna have longer shots usually. You may be
Oh
dealing
yeah,
with wind, you're probably dealing with wind. You
more
may
than
be
likely.
dealing with the rain, like you've shot in the rain at these tournaments, and then you're
Oh, dude,
also,
boring.
yeah, and you're like hiking up to it too. So it's like and you're in the middle of that hunt, your heart rate is up and everything. It's a good way to learn really fast. Like that's what I tell everybody. Like you can be a better hunter if you just shoot some form of a tournament archery course of whatever you want to do, just to learn how to shoot with your heart rate being up because your brain shuts off, your hold is worse, and like that
Hmm.
prepares you for that moment of, adrenaline spike whenever you go into a hunt, a little bit better.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because like it's like like I'm not trying to harp on 3D or whatever. A lot of people look at that as like the hunting tournaments because that's where most people go whenever they get into tournament stuff. Where dad bought me a bow. I was bow hunting and stuff. I found this tournament archery 3D or ASA or whatever you want to call it, and and then they're like, and then I joined that, and that's what I shoot. I'm like, yeah, that's all great and fun. You're not necessarily shooting at vitals. You're trying to shoot at a 12 ring. So there's really,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you're kind of shooting at a foam animal, but whenever I was shooting 3D and stuff, it's not like, oh man, massive deer. I gotta, get ready for it. No, it's like I gotta hit this 12 ring, and that was it. Some of them are back further, and some of them
yeah,
are turned in Texas ASA. Sometimes they'll like spin the core, so the 12s are opposite. Because I don't know if you ever noticed on an animal for ASA like the Delta McKenzie's, if the head is like this way, the bottom 12 is going to be over here, the top 12 is going to be over here. The head is
right,
this way, it's the opposite. But sometimes they can twist those cores so the top's actually back over here and the bottom's over here if the head's facing that way. So they can kind of throw you off that way. But whenever it comes to field, you're shooting a lot more. You do have a point of aim that you're trying to aim at. It's not like you're sitting there and you're floating around on a 3D target and it goes off and oh man, I was right there, right on the spot. And then you look down there and you're like way off back on the gut or whatever, because
right.
there's not really a point of aim on them. There is on some animals like the javelina or the leopard or whatever. There is a
Yeah.
sort of point of aim, but
See the
whenever
spots
it
and
comes to
stuff.
the field stuff, it's there's an actual dot that you're aiming at, and you can really learn how you're holding, how you're shooting, what you're doing wrong. There's a lot of things that you can take from a general field round.
Yeah, for sure. I almost think like the tack style archery that's, so popular now, I almost think that that may even be better in a lot of ways than just standard 3D archery because it's some outlandish shots you wouldn't necessarily take hunting, distance wise and stuff, but you're being forced to be put into uncomfortable situations. You hear all these people all the time,
Absolutely.
like they're big flex when they leave these tournaments. It's like, man, I shot one arrow the entire course, and not many people can even say that. So,
Well, it's like a golf tournament. I
yeah,
mean, like you go play a round of golf, you play 18 holes. If you finish up that whole 18, as an like a legitimate amateur
right.
golfer, if you finish a round, an 18-hole round with the same one golf ball, then yeah, you did really well. I mean, you may have a terrible score or something, but at least you got that one ball and you didn't lose any. And
Yeah,
it's the same sort of concept with that. Now there are a lot of people that really enjoy the tack archery and stuff, which is great. I mean, the fact that they're doing so well is phenomenal. But I do think some of that also comes from like, not having to keep score, not having these, you
yeah,
know, some people are, um, I guess, intimidated would kind of be like they don't want their scores posted in front of people, or
right.
they're like the hometown hero, and they don't want to
Yeah,
go back and be like, oh man,
that's
I
an
placed
ego thing.
last, or something like that. I mean, people
Yeah,
people want their dignity on that side, which is great. I mean, that's perfectly fine. If that's who you are, it's no big deal. I personally like to make myself better on that side, but they do have some like I've kind of wanted to go to attack because they do have some crazy shots. Like I've heard of like a rabbit target that was at like 120 yards or something, and the thing was like maybe 6 inches tall. I was like, dude, my
Yeah.
pin would take that entire animal up. Like I would not
Yeah.
know if I was on it or if I was next to it or
You just be
anything. I mean,
guessing.
yeah, but I mean they have some cool shots, and I really like the long distance shooting. Like that makes you a better archer as well. Like Jesse
Yeah.
Broadwater used to shoot, 100 yards every. Like that's where he practiced at, was at 100 yards
Yeah.
because you can really see what things are happening. Um, but whenever whenever it comes to like tack, the one thing that I worry about with that, as far as making somebody a better archer, is the uh, the fact that there isn't a score. There isn't
Yeah.
any anxiety to it. You can just walk up and fling an arrow and, oh, no, well, let me shoot another one real quick. And then, shoot another one.
Right.
There's no actual like pressure behind it. Yeah, you're getting the practice of shooting getting a little bit of pressure if you're that kind of person that doesn't want to lose an arrow. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same as golf. Like there's some people that go out there that don't care how many golf balls they go through. There's some people
Yeah.
that care if they end up at the end of the course with the same one that they started with. So I mean, there's parallels between both of them, but field can definitely make you a better archer and a better hunter.
Yeah.
In the fact of having that anxiety, that not wanting to drop an arrow. You want to hit the 5 or the X or whatever, and you want to like the 8. I mean, because the 80-yard walk up, because you shoot. So there's the 80-yard walk up, and you shoot
Yeah.
80, 70, 60, 50. Um, and you're only shooting that 80 yards once. That's that gets your heart kind of pumping because you're like, I mean, yeah, it's just one arrow, it's just one drop. But what if you have been shooting great so far and you get to that one target, and you're like, man, I got to shoot 80 yards, and that the target's relatively large, but it's still not very forgiving at 80 yards.
Yeah. It probably looks really far too if you just came off of like a 20 or 30, 40, short target.
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah.
looking at
You
like
come
almost
off
an
of one of
entire
those.
football field.
Yeah, you come off of one of those like the 15-yarder.
Yeah.
There's a 15-yarder that you shoot 4 arrows at. You come off of that and you go to the 80-yard walk up. You're like, golly, where is that thing? Trying to see down there.
Yep. One of the things you mentioned, I'm going to segue it in here. It was like paradox when we were talking about different styles of archery and everything. But one of the questions was um, pros and cons of drop away versus a blade rest. And
Yeah.
you are a big blade rest shooter. I used to
Yeah.
be. I now shoot drop aways. So convince me to go back to
But
a
hey,
blade.
I won't lie, buddy. I have a drop away.
Yeah,
Don't.
that's a hunting
So
bow though.
yeah, man. So I like I've shot blades for hunting. I have. I mean, I've used I've sat up in a
That's
tree
brave.
stand with the Hoyt Invicta. I mean, whenever I had one of those bows a few years ago, I mean, I've sat up in a bow stand with a target bow numerous times and had a blade on it and everything, and just
Yeah.
got my arrow sighted in and shot some broadheads with it and everything. And the tunes that I had were good enough. I was about to say perfect, but they were never perfect, but they were good enough that the arrow flew well, that I could, didn't have to move a bunch of stuff. So I run a lot of blades. Blades are, especially whenever it comes to tournament stuff. You don't have as much stuff go wrong with the blade. You don't have the possibility of your cord slipping, or a bearing going out on the actual like lever inside there, or like one of the springs inside there going out or whatever. You don't necessarily have that, or something breaking. Um, you do have a little bit of something breaking with a blade, though. When it comes to the blade, which if some people don't know what the blade is, this is a blade that's basically like that. You have the spot where the arrow fits in there. Um, if you're running a blade, the only thing that you necessarily have to worry about is your blade pitch angle changing, which there's lockdowns for that, and then like you're bending a blade or breaking a blade. knock on wood, I had not done. So I thought I bent one the other day. I mean, I put it into my truck and it slid, and I heard ping. I was like, ooh, oh. And I was like, I'll check it whenever I get to the range. It's not a big deal. And so I got over there and shot, and it was perfectly fine. But I thought that was the first one that I bent.
So talk me through when you, because you typically are using carbon for everything now, whether you use a
Yeah.
big shaft for an indoor or the skinny arrows for outdoors, but I know you've used aluminum here and there. What are you changing, if anything? Like, do you change your blade thickness or width when you go from indoors to outdoors? Do you keep it all the same? What do you do?
So I've tried running. So the nice thing with the blade is that you have options. So with a drop away, yeah, there's options, but it really doesn't. I mean, like it's moving out of the way of the arrow
Yeah,
flying through, so you're not getting that vein
yeah, that's the
contact or
benefit.
whatever. Say what?
That's the big benefit.
Yeah, well, to some, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's moving out of the way. There's really not a whole lot that you need to change. I mean, you can run one of the whale tails on there as long as it's still moving and operational. Then you're fine. You don't have to change a bunch of stuff. But whenever it comes to the blade, there's different thicknesses. There's a point oh 0.08, there's a point 0.10, there's a point 0.12. So you can run different thicknesses on there, which just allows it to bend a little more or bend less. Then there's different widths. You have the like for the AAE has the freak show width, which is the skinny arrow width,
yep.
where you have a standard, which everybody has the standard, or you have the wide. I've never ran a wide, just even with 27s. I just haven't needed to. Some people do because
Yeah,
how they draw it can chat the blade can chatter and the arrow can fall off or whatever. If you run a wide on like a fatter shaft, it'll kind of keep it on there a little better.
right.
But it's really like I run a freak show blade or the skinny blade for my micro arrows, and then I run a 10 standard for my
Yeah,
23s, my 27s, everything else.
yep.
And I used to run a number 10 standard for my field arrows whenever I was shooting some
Yeah,
that were a little bit. I was shooting some that were a little bit bigger, and I was shooting smaller vanes on them. Like they were still like a 166, but they were like a bigger 166. Not all those are standard, and so I didn't have any problem with that. But whenever whenever I went to these ultras, the 166, it was a little bit skinnier, so I started shooting that.
that's
That
something that you and I have nerded out on before that a lot of people don't think of. You and I have taken micrometers to arrows to measure, like we did that with
mm-hmm.
23s, because
Yeah,
the Easton aluminum X23s are 23, but
yeah,
then you get like I've got Black Eagle carbon 23s, and you were testing some
mm-hmm.
different brands too. They weren't
Yeah,
all 23 diameter. Some of them were small.
no,
Like you were losing like I mean, on 23s, that you're losing a big amount of trying to maybe catch that X ring or not. So
yeah. I mean, dude, I mean, like, so I was shooting for a company that they had, I was shooting their 23s, and they were over a line's width smaller than like a 2315, like an Easton aluminum shaft. And so you could literally, so with the Easton 20, so just using Easton 23s as an example, because it is a true 23/64 shaft, um, which is the outside diameter. Um, there is, well, it's the inside diameter, right? Inside diameter. Sorry, I said outside. But using a 2315, you can be barely touching the X line on a 3-spot target and be touching the 10 line, like the outside 10 line or whatever, on that 3-spot target. But the
yep,
other arrows that I was using that made me check them, compare them to some aluminum 23s, it was like you could literally fit that arrow between both. Like it wouldn't touch the X line and it wouldn't touch the 10 line. It would be right in between those. And there were still gaps
yeah,
between them. The ones I'm shooting now are like an actual 23. They're just a hair smaller than an actual 23, but they're still enough that like I can touch the X line and still be touching the 10.
yeah, for sure. I think I was trying to find a picture on my phone. I was going to show it, but I don't have it. But I had talking about blades too and the widths and all that. I have run those wide blades like you were talking about before, and I quit doing it too.
Uh-huh.
Went back to the standards even on the larger arrows, but I would cut them down. What I actually had to do that on the standard blades for some of the micro diameters too. That's the big benefit of that AAE freak show having the super
Yeah.
skinnies. But do you change? Do you notice a difference or a change in offset or helical change on a vein, like on a blade? Can you only run like small offset, small helical, or do you worry about vein contact, or you just let it plow through it, or how do you do that?
Dude, I mean, I've shot my arrow upside down before. Like, if you get your blade set up correctly, with the right thickness and everything, you can shoot your arrow upside down and it'll still hit in the same spot.
Yeah.
Many people have proven that. So I do run a pretty good offset. I don't think we've talked about this lately.
Mm-mm.
I started doing a helical. We did talk about that. I was running just like a slight left offset. Now I'm running a right helical that's like at a 2-degree offset. So I mean, it's a pretty steep one. Um, I get a little bit of vein contact on there, but nothing like it's not just leaving solid. I'm shooting white veins right now, so it's not leaving like a solid white streak across there.
Right.
But I do kind of orientate my arrows just a little bit to where, because it's going to spin as soon as it's coming off, it's going to spin to the right. And so I put my, like, the low side of one of the veins right at the top of the blade, and then the back, like the other side, the other angle is like almost in line with the blade. So as it's coming across, it's moving past those blades as the veins going through. So
Yeah.
I don't really get like a bunch of contact, and I haven't had any issue with it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty much exactly what I used to do. So I used to get spray foot powder. I would spray the back of the arrow with the veins and
Yeah.
everything, and I would adjust it to
Mm-hmm.
where as it was spinning and coming across the blade, it was getting essentially even contact or whatever you want to call it, where it wasn't clipping like the front of
Yeah.
a vein or something like that. But I used to have
Mm-hmm.
people I have people ask me all the time, they're like, I'm getting blade contact and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, okay, but unless you hear the arrow hitting the blade so hard that, I mean, it's either the vein orientation is really wrong or the tune is wrong. But unless you hear the arrow hitting the blade so hard it's tinging, you're
Yeah.
usually okay. Like people don't
Yeah.
realize that. Like it's going across, you're fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're like, because that's what the blade's there for. That's why it's so, or that's why it's spring steel versus like a hardened steel or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's designed to flex and move out of the way, saying similar to a drop away.
Mhm.
I mean, you shoot a lot of drop aways. Like, what? Why do you shoot drop aways over a blade?
I switched over because of tuning. So I had a bow at that time that I was having to run a knock low that was about an eighth of an inch knock low to get it to tune well. And doing that, I was getting some bad vein contact and it was pinging, hitting that arrow. And every now and again, if I did something goofy with my hand, I could see the arrow it would kick and I would hit low. And at like
Okay.
50 yards, I was hitting like mid to bottom of a 9 ring low
Mm-hmm.
because it was just kicking it, but it was really bad on tune. That one was pretty severe. That was opening time of binary cams on this bow, and
Mm-hmm.
they, for my draw length, just did not sync together well, I guess. um, I was running that arrow upside down, essentially, the way that the carbon and everything was on there, so it was flexing differently. And that was that, and then like an eighth of an inch low. That was the only way I could get it to tune or work well or group well for the most part. So I switched over to a drop away at that point. That's when I used the Hamseka when I first started it,
Mm-hmm.
and I could run it dead even on knock height, and it was getting a bullet hole, and it was shooting through paper well, and everything was good. So that was when I started it. I did go back and forth a little bit on a vein after that with a normal bow setup that was still shooting like it would shoot both, right? I I don't think that I would outgroup or outshoot one or the other, but I do think that I can be extremely more lazy with a drop away, and that's why I like them. I don't have
Yeah.
to worry
They call
about
that
blade
more
angle.
forgiving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It's laziness. I have room for error. I don't have to work as hard. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't have to worry about blade angle. I don't have to worry about, the orientation of the vein so much or whatever. Like
Mhm.
I can shoot. Um, it quickened my tuning up a ton too. And at the time I needed that. I didn't have a lot of time to tune and work on setups. I just needed it to work. But here's the thing, like people worry about like things breaking. There's internal springs on a drop away. There's the bearings. There's the cord and the
A lot
football
more
that
that can
holds
go
the
wrong.
cord. Do what?
So there's a lot more that can go wrong.
Yeah, there is. But you know
That
what?
cord can just slide just a little bit.
I've run the same drop away, knock on wood, from that very first bow that would not tune. That drop away rest is on the bow that I shoot now. And
You know
that
what they say
was
though too?
in
They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, that's probably it, right? But that's been years, right? So I've
Yeah.
got the same one on there. I have another one, like I have a different one or whatever, but that's just the one that I've rolled over.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I've never had that issue. Now, I was selling them for a while. I would sell those Hamsky rests, and I did have two warranty ones come back like a year later,
Mhm.
and one of them was the external spring where the
Mhm.
cord attaches to, and one of them was an internal spring that broke.
Yeah.
And I know there for a little bit, I was hearing rumors that some of those springs were brittle, fragile, whatever, right? And then they
Yeah. They
fixed
weren't they
it.
weren't heat treated properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say that I shot nothing but blade rest from early on until like 2019, and I never had one
Mhm.
break, and I only had one get bent,
Yeah.
and of no fault of my own, right? Just like being at a tournament and somebody like, I don't know if I think it hooked on something on their quiver and it just ripped it straight up.
Yeah. Dude, it can happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen people catch it on their pants, like if they're
Hmm.
coming down with their bow or whatever, catch it on their pants or something as they're like going
Yeah.
to walk forward to the next target, and heard them bending them that way, or even cracking them. I mean, I've heard of cracking them, but I've never actually seen one crack. I know I
Yeah.
talked to people that have had them crack, but man, I will say real quick, not going down a rabbit hole just yet, maybe for another podcast, but paper tuning's not the end all be all, right?
Well, no, and that's always my starting point. So, if I so so when I was having that knock low, I was still getting a knock low tear through paper. But if I did like if I did a bullet hole in that bow, then my groups were like 1.25 inch larger in diameter than if I had a knock low tear. That's where I'd
That's
got
why
to with that for group tuning.
yeah, I was gonna say you basically went to group
Yeah.
tuning before
Yeah, that's
group
where I
tuning
was
was
at
cool.
the end.
Yeah, man, that I mean that's it's really so there's some people that like Dave Cousins talked
Uh,
about it. I went to one of his seminar deals a while back, and he brought up a pretty interesting thing. You know, like even with cars, there's some like one part, like aftermarket part or whatever on a car may work
mhm.
phenomenal for this one car, but for somebody else's, it's just something's not. It's just something with
Yeah.
the milling or whatever. It isn't lining up or operating 100% as it should or as it was for this guy.
Yeah.
Was the same sort of concept for that David talked about. He had talked about some bows like dropaways and some bows like blades, and he said that like whenever he went to PSE, he tried using a blade with it, and he was getting some just kind of odd stuff, which at his level and shooting as long as he has, he
Yeah.
notices a lot of very, very minute details. So he's like, you know what, I'll try throwing a blade rest on there, maybe that'll help, or a drop away rest on there, maybe that'll help. He said he put one on and it got rid of that completely. So, maybe it could be the arrow that you built may like a drop away better, or maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you'll like a blade better. But it also all comes down to personal preference. I mean,
Yeah.
I like a blade just because I I don't have to worry about it too much. But I shoot a drop away for hunting. So
Yeah.
I mean, if your complaint is that one's louder than the other. I mean, I've had blades that, as you're drawing back, it doesn't make a sound. And then I've had
Yeah.
some drop away rests that whenever you draw back, it's coming across
Yeah.
that little plastic piece or whatever. So, it's really just a lot of it comes down to personal preference.
Yeah. Would you say whatever you're choosing to shoot, whatever style of whatever you want, would you think that it makes more difference as to what you have confidence in? You'll shoot better with it no matter what, within
Yeah, I mean,
reason.
confidence is key. I mean, you want to be confident in your equipment. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best equipment that you could buy or whatever. If you have absolute confidence in your equipment, you can perform better because you're not worried about that. Like, for instance, I mean, you get people that you go out and shoot, and all they do is sit there and worry about this or worry about that, or man, I'm afraid my arrows are flying a little funny, or oh, they might be contacting this and that. I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of a tournament. Just shoot like this is how you've had it set up for months now. Just
Yeah.
shoot your bow
Yeah.
and just worry about shooting it well, and don't worry about
Yeah.
the little bitty micro things. Worry about that whenever you get home.
I've had people text me in the middle of tournaments, especially outdoor tournaments where there's big breaks in between that I'm
Mm-hmm.
coaching and start asking me questions. And I'm like, no, we'll talk
Yeah,
after. Don't mess up
yeah,
anything right now because then you're going to be thinking about that and it's going to be a disaster. Shoot your
dude.
bow.
That's part of that mental training portion. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to, like, a lot of people don't talk about mental training, and it's a big, like, everybody says archery is 90% mental, 10% physical, which it
Yeah.
very much is. I mean, you're literally, for for the most part, you're literally standing in one spot or standing in a spot, drawing a bow, which takes sometimes minimal effort, holding that bow up and shooting a shot within, you know, 13 seconds, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
7 seconds, or whatever,
Yeah.
however long it takes you to fire it.
Yeah. Like 3 to 5 seconds if you're Braden Gellantine, maybe
Yeah,
30 if you're Chance.
yeah, right. So I mean, you're looking at just very minimal output for
Yeah.
all the mental stuff that you have to do in between there. The try not to focus on score and all that other kind of stuff. So
It's cool,
it's
man.
just
So
fine.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say, like speaking that middle game, that was a question we had, was looking at the mental training and I got one, you got one when we both posted this. You had somebody message you, I had somebody message me, and that's a big topic. And you know, I rolled into it from a different perspective in a lot of ways than some of the books that you can read and like some of the things that you can talk about because of personal experiences on my own. So um, that was something like even you and I have talked about a lot too at the mental side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and like you came to me and you were like, okay, like, and we both know we're always evolving when it comes to the shooting style or form or technique, like all of that's always like you're always trying to get that 1% better. But I know at
Mm-hmm.
one point you were like, okay, I'm pretty solid with this side of it, but what can I do now here with the mental side? And we were talking about that. So kind of give me your overview. Like, why did you want to get better? Because here's the thing. I think people spend too much time worrying about their equipment or their tune or their brand of whatever the heck they're shooting, and they don't spend enough time on the mental part of it because that's just a bigger part of it. But like, what made you want to kind of focus on the mental side of things and try to make that game better for you?
Well, man, I mean, everybody, like, I mean, you've probably done it. A lot of people, no, a number of people that I've talked to in archery have all done the exact same thing. Go out, you go to the bookstore, you pick up with archery in mind, or with winning in mind, and
Yeah,
see, now I have archery on my mind. You pick up with winning in mind, and then you read through that book and everything, and it talks about the mental game, it talks about that whole side, which is great. But there's a lot of things that, like, they talk about in there that is very, one thing that I see is that a lot of those mental coaches like that, or like the those mental management books, are, they give you just a little bit, but they don't give you
yeah,
like a whole thing, like they want to keep the revenue coming in because that's what they're making their money off
Yeah, they
of.
want you to
So
go
if they give
directly to
you,
them.
yeah, so if they give you all of it in a book, you're not going to go, get coaching from them or whatever. So you get like a little bit of it, like some of the processes, some of this and some of that. Um, Now there are some good information. There's some very good information in that
Yeah.
book, and in many other books. Like Jerome has about 3 books that are solid. I mean, very good books that talk about mental game and everything. Um, but the problem is that like anything, people will want to do it, and then once they start doing it, they stop immediately because it's or they'll stop within a week or
Yeah.
whatever because it's not as fun or um, they're not. It's just something new, and so they forget or whatever. But
And there's
my
not that
reason for
immediate feedback of like, I got instantly better,
yeah,
you know?
exactly, yeah, it's not like that. I instantly increased my score 10x's or
Yeah.
whatever at that time. But the reason why like I reached out to you was I've read those books. I've gone and done that, but it's always that outside perspective, somebody else that thinks a little bit different that can help me, with that side, which it did. I mean, it helped me quite a bit. Like there's sometimes where I'm shooting, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, remember the grip or remember this or
Yeah.
try not to focus on these kind of things. Um, but my reason for wanting to get better is just I'm competitive, I guess. Like I'm not competitive to a fault, like I'm not going to be like if me and you were to go shoot and say I lost to you, I'm not going to be upset, and throw my bow and stomp out of there and take the
If I lose, I'm
ball
going to
and
kick your
leave,
bow over.
and yeah, I mean, it's just, it's just,
And then ask for a
it's,
rematch.
yeah, right. No, I mean, there's some people that are like that, that think they have to
Yeah.
win every single time that they go shoot. I'm not necessarily one of those people. I love to win. I love
Yeah.
to place high and win a whole tournament, beat people or whatever. I'm not too shy to say that I enjoy that. That is,
Yeah.
if I didn't enjoy that, then why would I shoot tournament archery?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. But I'm just a generally competitive person. Um, but I enjoy like the competition is the part that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
Is the competition against myself and myself. Like I
Yeah. The
enjoy
internal one.
trying to beat myself in from previous tournaments. Um, so it's just I mean it's really like I just enjoy that competition so much. I
Yeah.
enjoy shooting my bow a lot. I enjoy practicing and everything, but I just enjoy winning.
Yeah. For sure. I'm the same. So I had a double-edged sword growing up with my mental side of things early on was um I was raised in a household by my father who was very much like, if you can't go out there and win and be the best, then don't do it. And second place wasn't celebrated. And while there is some positives that you can get out of that, there's some negatives too. Because
Yeah.
my mental program for the longest time, not just in archery, but just in life in general, was very typical of like what, and I may be completely off base, but from what I would perceive as like very male typical of just do it and
Mm.
just like grit and bear it, tough it out. Like, don't be a little, you know what, go do it kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? And that doesn't work. Or it does, but it
No.
only works to a point. And when it stops working really drastically. So I think that, like, for me, the mental side of things came from like in the archery world came from like the mental side of things in my personal world. So um the cool thing for me, so like the 5 spot targets that are on my wall right here, those aren't really great scores. A lot of people ask me that. They're like, "Oh, did you win when you put those up there? What special meaning they have?" Every one of those targets to me, the special meaning to those targets are that was my first year of tournament archery when I was doing the Shoot Your Way Across Texas series. That was my taste years ago of like tournament archery. What only a couple people close to me in my life know about until this moment is that I struggle really bad with anxiety. And the type of anxiety that bothers me the most is the going somewhere to do certain things type of anxiety. So every one of those targets was a win to me that year because I forced myself to go to a tournament and not just run out the door as soon as it started,
Yeah.
because that would have been really easy for me to do. So that's why they're there. And that personal strife that I had on the mental side of things allowed me to get some help and learn how to be better mentally. And then I noticed that it started helping me in archery when I started directing it towards there, um, which I think is a reason why, like Blake Jerome's book or the book with Laney Basham's with Winning in Mind. Those are
Mhm.
great books, and there's tons of good info, but it's very blanketed info, and
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more specific to the person. Like I've gone through different drills with you that are the same drills with another archer, but the goals were different and the viewpoints in them were different too. So um, I think that makes a big difference too, is like you said, just finding specialized for you type thing. Because I know like you wanted to
Yeah.
do a lot of the mental visual side, and I
Hmm.
posted on Instagram, reposted from Brady Ellison, which was like perfect timing when I saw that last night or this morning or whatever. He was talking about on his post that he shot thousands of arrows in his head. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that a lot of people overlook because it is very boring. But like I've gone to bed
Hmm.
at night, and that's how I forced myself to fall asleep many times, just shooting fake arrows at a target because
Hmm.
you don't realize it, but the day you pick up your bow, like I know you don't do this. You I think texted me the other day and you were like, I haven't shot my bow in 2 or 3 days. That's so weird for me to now go
It
shoot.
is.
I will
Yeah.
not like 100 to 150 arrows a week for me is a lot. I
Yeah.
don't have time to shoot every day. And when I do, it's 15, 20, 30. Like I shot 45 arrows the other day and I was like, holy cow, that was a lot, for me, because I just don't
Uh-huh.
have the time right now all the time to like devote to it. So I can grab a bow and yeah, my muscles will feel a little bit off and maybe like the physical side of things is a little bit off, but I can pick up my bow and shoot a perfect shot like the first shot because I've done so many mentally before I got to that it didn't, it's just muscle memory.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like muscle memory is definitely a good one. Like, visualization is a huge proponent on why a lot of the pro archers are where they are at,
Yeah.
because they, you may report or flying to another place. Um, you could just sit there and just kind of visualize your shooting and everything. Um, but one of the, like I said earlier, like confidence is key. Having confidence in yourself and your equipment. A lot of people have problems or have trouble with the mental side of having confidence in themselves. I struggle with
Hmm.
that quite a bit
Yep.
personally. I mean, maybe I might not look like it or talk
Yeah.
like it, but there's a reason for that. Is because on the inside, I'm like, man, you're gonna lose. You are terrible at this. Like, there's other people out there that are doing way better than you, and you practice a lot. And so,
Yeah.
it's the self talk side of it, and there's a lot of times where like I'm like really hard on myself for those kinds of things, and I've been like that for as long as I can remember. I've always been really hard on myself mentally,
Yeah.
uh, but having confidence in my equipment and everything is a huge thing for me, and having confidence in myself, I work on that daily. And little, you got to celebrate the little wins and everything. That's a huge deal on that whole thing as well. As
Yeah.
like you said, seconds not wasn't celebrated, but maybe it should be.
Yeah. I think it
You,
should be
you still
now.
you still beat 40 other people or whatever. I mean that
Yeah.
something along those lines, but is that like it should be celebrated? Or I'm happy that I placed seventh in field nationals. I was
Yeah.
sitting in second. I was sitting in second solid, and then I had a little mishap where there was it was like dyslexia or something. Like the target was target number 23, but the yardage was 33. And so
Yeah.
I like drew back and shot. And I mean, I smoked the dot on the lower target. and was like, what just happened? And I look at my sight and I was like, oh, the target's number 23, and I said it, whatever,
Yeah.
however it was. And so it was something like that. So it's just a little mishap on my side,
Yeah.
not necessarily a mental mistake. It was more of a reading error, I guess. But
Right.
but it, I still finished up the round. Still finished up the round great. Like that was like mid round on that,
Yeah.
and I still finished up the round great. And so I was very happy about that because I was like, well, I know I gave up, a podium spot. That's fine, but if I wallow in self pity and get upset about it, then all I'm going to do is shoot worse and worse and
Yeah.
worse, and then I'm just going to drop even lower. So, don't worry about that. You still shoot great and all that kind of stuff. Self talking myself up, and ended up shooting really well and finished in seventh, which I was still happy about. I just
Yeah.
top 10. I mean, what's
Yeah.
wrong
I
with
mean, at a
what's wrong with
national
that?
tournament.
Yeah. So I can't be, you can't be too upset about
No.
that. You got to know where you also can't expect too much from yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta know your own, you got to know your own limits. Like, yeah, you want to go out there and win this tournament, but like, don't worry about the other people that are shooting it. But
Right.
say top dog comes out, or you're shooting like a USA shoot, and Sawyer Sullivan's shooting right next to you, and you're shooting, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, I'm definitely not going to win first. Well, they're still second place. They're still third
Yeah.
place. You can win. Don't worry about where you're going to win or where you're going to place. Just worry about, shooting your shot and that whole deal. You can celebrate that as it's still a win. I mean,
Yeah.
depending on, if if you're like an average like 295 shooter or whatever, and you shoot a 294, well, hey man, you almost hit your average. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, in a tournament, I mean that's great. Be happy about it.
Yeah.
Don't wallow in self pity. So
That's something I don't think a lot of people realize, and they put a sense of pressure on themselves. So I'm going to go back to something that we talked about earlier too, and kind of wrap it
yeah.
into it. But if you look at like, and this is pretty much any sport that I know of. Um, I grew up racing dirt bikes, got to a professional level. You
Mm-hmm.
could take a local pro who can race at a professional level, but is getting their butt kicked, and maybe not qualifying for the actual event at a pro class. But
Mm-hmm.
you take them and put them on a course with normal people,
Yeah.
and it's nuts, the variance of speed and the difference. And archery is that way too. You can take
Yeah.
a pro that even is like mid pack, bottom of the pack, something like that, professional archer, and throw them in the amateur class with like your guys at where you shoot, and they're gonna smoke you most of the time. Now I know
Yeah.
there's some disparity at times, but for the most part, right?
There can be, because I mean, there's the whole, like with dirt bikes, like it's not necessarily pay to play. You have to win your way up, but
Yeah.
with archery, it's a little different. Like anybody
Archery
can,
should be that way too.
like,
That's my
like
soapbox.
anybody can join the pro class for the ASA.
Yeah.
For the NFAA, you actually have to have like a qualifying score, but it's not like a super unobtainable
Yeah.
score or
That's
perfect
pretty
score or
easy.
anything like that. So yeah, it's not super difficult. If you shot a bow for a little while and you can shoot like I think it's 355 X's on a
Yeah.
on a 5 spot like that one. If you can shoot a 5 spot like that, that's you shoot 55 X's out of the 60, then I think,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, you can like get a pro card on there.
Yeah. Which I mean, the top 10 for the year rundown in Texas could all be eligible for a card at that rate, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
and
without a doubt.
yeah, but anyway, so we'll save that for another topic, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that is something that you wanted to talk about, and I think that would be really cool, talking about like the ASA change and some different stuff. But
Hmm.
to get back on like the mental side of things, you're not going to outshoot your average. Like, don't ever think that. Like, whatever your average is in practice, first of all, I think tracking that helps you a lot, but you're definitely not going to outshoot that at a tournament. So that I
Well,
think is a big one.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. There is a possibility that you could get on like a crazy roll. You're shooting out of your head if you don't focus on it. Like that's where that mental training and stuff kind
Right.
of comes from. If you're like, holy crap, I'm gonna shoot a 30x this game, and I've only shot like 27x's or whatever, or
Yeah.
oh man, I'm almost shooting like I have three more arrows, and I'll shoot I'll shoot a 298 with 20x's, and I've only ever shot a 298 with you know 19x's.
Yeah.
Well, you still have three more arrows to go, and if you're sitting there thinking that, then you're highly likely, it's a lot higher possibility of missing all three of those X's and
Right.
ending up with like a 16x, 16x game. Um,
Yeah.
so
So would
it's
you,
there is a possibility of shooting outside your mind and beating your general average, um, but it's it's a lot less of a chance
yeah.
than
So would
shooting
you
your
say
average
it's
or
more
shooting over.
important to follow like a process versus an outcome, or do you mix that together? How do you do that?
So I've I've always I've been very um, I've been very outcome oriented a lot of
Yeah.
times, and it's to a absolute fault. It's not good to be outcome oriented. If you're outcome oriented, then you're sitting there worried about, for me especially, if I draw back and I'm, shooting mine, it's always for me, it's always in the middle of the round. It's the beginning of the round and the middle of the round. The end of the round, I'm usually so relaxed, it's ridiculous. But but for some reason, like the middle of the round, I get to like, oh man, we're almost halfway there. Like you're doing great. Just keep shooting those X's or keep shooting those tens or whatever, and then I will get too over. Like I'll be trying too hard. I'll over aim too hard, or I'll be I'll be like, oh, the float's just a little bad. I can fix it. I can fix it. I can, and then then next thing you know, you're way out in no man's land.
Yep.
So I was outcome oriented for a long time, and I still am sometimes. Like I'm working through that daily. Like mental, that's the deal with mental game.
Yeah.
It's not like
Constant
oh, I
struggle.
beat the mental game. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. No, it's definitely it's an everyday, like, I mean, it all goes for your personal life, your archery life, your, hobby life, whatever you want to call it. Like there's like, it goes across the board. Um, but, uh, I've been working on becoming more process oriented and focusing on like feeling my shot better, making sure that everything feels good, and not worrying necessarily about where the arrow hits. And whenever I do that, like it's ridiculous how well I can shoot. I mean, I
Yeah.
like the other night I shot a I shot a two. I don't even think I sent you this picture, but I shot a 299 28x game with 27s,
Yeah.
and the one that I missed was like round number 5, and it was floating real bad. And instead of telling myself, okay, let down, start over, like I got this, I got this, I can do this, I can slow it down, and
Yeah.
it went off way low and out. I mean,
Yep.
if I had a brand new target up there, 90% of them would have been like dead center X's, and then there'd be one that's way out, like on the 8-9 line. Like it was bad, but it's
Yeah.
also because I was focused on, I'm wanting to hit X, I'm wanting to shoot the X, like the float, don't mind that, focus on like try to hit that X, and so
Yeah.
it did not go well, but yeah.
Well, I know we're right around that hour mark, so I'll kind of wrap this up. I think we could probably talk a whole podcast on just the mental side of things and really
I
like
mean, we
dive into
could,
it. If people are
yeah,
into that, like comment on this video, tell us, we'll do that.
yeah.
But one thing that I'll say is because I don't want to just cop out and be like, well, like kind of like the normal info everybody hears, and kind of give a little bit more on it too and elaborate on some stuff. But like, I really feel like if you can stay in the moment, that is what helps you the most. And when I say stay in the moment, I don't mean like even per shot necessarily, like even look smaller than that. Because when our minds start to
Mhm.
wander, like when you get to a tournament, I don't know, you may be different, but I think the majority of us a lot of people are like, man, I don't want to be nervous when I go to a tournament. And that's just not going to happen. Like, you're going to be nervous. So you need to learn how to work through that and become comfortable with that. And I think that's where that mental side of it is like mentally, your brain doesn't know the difference. The way that everything fires off in your brain, it doesn't know the difference between being nervous or being excited. So when you start getting
Hmm.
butterflies in your stomach and you start getting nervous to go to a tournament, if you start taking that and channeling that in your daily mental practice of going, that's not nervousness, that's excitement. That is literally your body is priming you to do better. Like, it's actually going to make you better as long as you let it, kind of that thought process. I think that goes a long way. And then just staying like, focused on like the process itself. So staying out of the mental brain of I need to shoot X amount of scores or I need to shoot this arrow next to shoot my best score ever, and going, okay, like I feel like how does my grip feel in my hand? Am I setting my hand and my grip correctly? Am I setting my release hand correctly? Am I doing those steps correctly? Staying very process oriented, I think, helps a ton. But um, yeah, I mean, I think we could talk a ton on the mental side of it.
Yeah,
That you can go a lot in depth with that and like way down the rabbit hole on it for sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, so I know, like you said, we're getting close to that hour mark, but and I mean, this could be something that we could talk about next time, which would be perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my the spot that I've been like really diving into a whole bunch here lately.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've listened to all sorts of books, and
Yeah.
because I, with my job, I can listen to Audible or whatever. So I've gone through a lot of books on this kind of stuff. Not necessarily just for archery, but for everything. Um,
Yeah.
but it'd be actually like focus on practicing your mental game. So like people are like, well, what do I need to do to practice my mental game? Well, one would be have confidence in yourself. Don't talk down about yourself.
Yeah.
Um, don't go don't go to a tournament and complain that your arrows aren't flying right or
Yeah.
that something's messed up because you've known about that tournament. That tournament didn't just pop up like a day before and you're just like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
Like you've been working on your bow and everything, like you should have confidence in your equipment and all that. More than likely the error isn't in your equipment, it's in yourself, unfortunately. Sorry to break that bad news to you if you didn't know that. But
Yeah.
but
You
then,
mean I'm not perfect?
yeah, no, I'm not perfect either. Like I may pretend like I am sometimes, but you
Yeah.
know, acting like if you do have self-confidence issues, if you act confidently, it will actually make you believe that you're more confident. That's
Yep.
been a proven, studied fact that the same as visualization and all that. So if you
Yep.
act a little more confident and everything, you know, it will help. But doing those things, if you need some training drills or whatever, take one of these three spots here, go with a razor knife or pair of scissors or whatever. One thing that I've done is cut the 10 ring out. Or if you know that you don't generally just shoot 300s or whatever, cut the whole 9 ring out. Don't,
Hmm.
you can still have the target where you're not worried about your score. You're just sitting in the middle, but you're working through your mental stuff,
Yep.
focusing on your actual shot. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like blank bell, blank bell, blank bell, which blank belling is great. It's
Yeah.
also extremely boring. A lot of people know that it's boring.
Right.
So one thing that I've kind of found is that I'll take one of these targets right here and I'll just shoot the snot out of it, and just to the point of where like you can't even tell where the arrow is anymore on the scoring rings.
Yep.
And then then I just use that as a practice target where I'm still looking at this target and I'm still seeing all the colors and everything, but I have no clue what the score would be. I have a general idea, like, okay, yeah, that might be in the 10, that might be an
Right.
X, but it's enough, like it's enough that you can't keep score on it.
Yep.
So, just shooting that and just getting into that rhythm of shooting at a target with no score whatsoever. So it kind of helps you on that.
Yeah.
Doing that whole thing, shooting at 8 yards. You can set up a target at 8 yards and try to shoot the same hole every single time. and then that will help you build confidence in your shot. That'll help you build confidence in your score. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
might shoot like a 30x score, but if your arrows are one's here, one's here, one's here, one's here, one's here, one's here on an X that's at 8 yards, you have some things to work on.
Right.
You want to try to get them all in the same hole, which can be done. Um, I mean, you look at it, you're like 8 yards. That's, I could throw the arrow and hit about
Yeah.
the same spot every time. Um, so just working on things like that, but like really focusing on your actual shot during your practice and everything and worrying about it at that time is a whole lot better than trying to worry about it when you're standing on the line and there's a couple $100 or whatever, or you're wanting to be, you're wanting to win the tournament or whatever it is
Yeah.
that you're the process oriented or the outcome oriented that you're not supposed to be doing
Right.
is it's a lot better to worry about it at the time of when you're practicing, because that's when you're supposed to be fine tuning those things and you're supposed to be ready for the tournament that you're going to, or
Yeah.
shooting that big deer that walks out in front of you as you're standing up in that tree stand. I mean, there's you want to have the not or you want to work on the things in practice, because then whenever the actual time comes to do those things, you don't want to have to think about it. You want it just to be
Yeah.
natural. Okay, arrow, release, draw back, and then you just go,
Yeah.
and everything just goes so much better.
For
Your
sure.
score actually goes up too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It really will. Yeah. And the byproduct is you actually aren't as nervous. So a lot of people want to not be nervous. That's the way to do it. Quit
no,
worrying about the
nerves.
outcome.
Well, nerves are great. I've tried shooting without nerves. And at the moment, like in practice or whatever, you're like, man, this is so much easier
Yeah.
without having any sort of nerves. But whenever you actually have nerves, yeah, things look like they're moving a lot more, but they're actually still moving the exact same. Once you
Yeah.
realize that, you actually like roll with it, then it's not big or as big of a deal. You just kind of
For sure.
like, I love the nerves part of it. It's that's one of my favorite, like other than actually winning, that's my other favorite thing is like
Yeah.
getting the nerves up and getting excited about going and shooting a tournament and who you're shooting against, and you know not in like the fact of worrying about them, like
Yeah.
it's the fact of
It's the excitement
that
of
you
being
actually
there.
get to participate. Well, you get to participate with these people.
Yeah.
I mean, like whenever I went and I saw, not to draw it out anymore, but this will be my last and final thing. But for Yankton for field nationals and in the pro class, whenever I shot, so my group was Mike Slosher, Bodie Turner, um, Eric Campbell, and then gosh, there was one other person in there, and I cannot remember who it was right now. I think it was me. Yeah, it was me.
Well, I hope it's you.
So that was the four. That was the four in our group.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, but I'm shooting with the world ranked number one, who was ranked number one for what was
Years.
it, 1,800 days or something,
Yeah.
and super nice guy,
Hmm.
great guy. And then I have Bodie Turner, who had won Vegas like
But
three
yeah.
times by that point, and was an outstanding shooter. But you know what I wasn't worried about? I wasn't worried about shooting with those guys. I wasn't worried that I was I was probably gonna get my tail handed to me or get my teeth kicked in by them. I was more excited and thrilled that I was gonna be getting to shoot with the world number one archer and the guy who won, or the kid at that time that won Vegas
Yeah.
and won field nationals and won all these other tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
I was excited to get to shoot with them, because you can learn a lot just from being around the people and seeing the things that they're doing and how they're
Yeah.
setting stuff up. Trying like, yeah, you're focused on how you're shooting and everything, but you're also trying to focus on what are they doing? Like what different things are they doing whenever they step up to the target? Like you were asking about looking at the target where everybody's hitting or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
I've looked at the grass or whatever, but I never really kind of gave much thought to it other than seeing which way the wind was blowing. But
Right.
you just learn a lot of stuff from those higher level archers like that, or just
For
higher
sure.
level people in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, you couldn't have more polar opposites too between those two guys. You know, between Bodie Turner and Mike Slosher, it's like super heavy bow, super light bow.
Yes,
Shot style is a little different, like everything.
do their whole
So
stance. If you
yeah,
ever look at how Mike stands, like he
nice.
stands with his like almost with his whole torso facing
Yeah,
towards the target
yeah,
as he's shooting. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, hey, everybody, thank you for watching this, especially if you've made it this far in, or maybe you're just watching parts of this. But comment down below. Let us know what you think, good, bad. We want to get better at this, make this good for us. This is going to become, at least for now, an every other week thing. I'll have a normal video that comes out next week. The next week after that will be another podcast like this, and we'll just be rolling this through. So if you'd like to see anybody, comment down below. Let us know who you've got for guest ideas, topic ideas, anything like that. And we're happy to roll all this out. But I appreciate everybody watching today and being supporting on this channel and everything. So I really appreciate it.